You are listening to the Football Diehards podcast with your hosts, Justin Lonero and Bob Harris, sponsored by DraftKings. Sign up now using promo code DIEHARDS, DIEHARDS. Make a first-time $5 deposit, and you'll receive a free $3 ticket.
Hello and welcome to the Football Diehards podcast. I'm your host, Justin Lonero, along with my co-hosts, Mr. Bob Harris, Mr. Kyle Dvorchak, on Twitter at Football Diehard. Mr. Dvorchak has changed his handle at Kyle Tweets here. Mr. Harris, we missed you last week. What is going on in Albuquerque, New Mexico this evening? It's week 2 already, sir.
I am standing in my humble abode with no electricity. And so when it does come on, you will hear 1,000 sounds as all 30 of my televisions and everything will come on all at once, and I'll be frantically trying to shut them down, or maybe not. We'll see. But it's everything's smooth here. A lot of things going on, obviously, coming out of week 1 with a lot of intensely interesting things, plenty of developments that we will get into. Kyle, are you all in one piece, young fella?
Yeah, I made it through mostly unscathed, and then I ended up having a good showdown slate as a reward for all my hard work. I believe that's how that works. So,
and you're going to be buying dinner for everybody tonight, you're saying?
McDonald's.
At McDonald's. I don't eat there. So we want to
Burger King. I'll get you Burger King.
Yes, the Impossible Burger. I will be ridiculed for that. So we're going to jump into this week's DFS slate and see what's up with that. But we want to touch base on some newsy items. It is Tuesday as we're recording this, and as we began recording, reports began to circulate of an alleged sexual assault by Antonio Brown on a woman that he is associated with, a trainer/entrepreneur. And so, look, that's out there. We're not going to get too deep into that other than to say that the Antonio Brown legal team had an immediate and in-depth response. I mean, a full page refuting the allegations. So we're going to kind of just, leave it out there that it has happened. The circus is ongoing. Antonio Brown is a patriot beyond that. And we're going to go ahead and for the purposes of this podcast, until we have better information and a little more context, we're going to pretend that Antonio Brown is going to be moving forward as if he is a patriot. So I asked you, Justin Lonero, up in the Boston area, what's the local take on this, and what's your view of who pays a price here in terms of production and who gains?
Oh, well, heading into this season, I thought it was going to be a run-oriented football team. We're talking about a 40-something-year-old Tom Brady. Look, the fact of the matter is Antonio Brown is probably the best wide receiver we've seen in the last 5 or 6 years. The numbers corroborate that, but there's been a pattern here. And tonight you dropped that news before the show started. It's just seemingly getting worse. It's unusual that they give that kind of guaranteed money to a player. But the reality is it's going to be their way or it's going to be the highway for him. And it's that close. So he's not going to come into the Patriots and, change what they do. He's either going to play by the rules or he's going to be out. But that being said, you have Julian Edelman, you have Josh Gordon, who look terrific, by the way, and you're minus Rob Gronkowski. So this is a Patriots team that, it could be 2007-esque. The defense is solid. They're about 20-point favorites this week against the Dolphins, so it's going to go. Now, what you dropped before the show could, the beat goes on. The fact of the matter is they're going to be okay with Antonio Brown. They're going to be okay without him. That's just the nature of the business. But obviously, it's a luxury to have a player of his caliber on your team.
And Kyle, when you look at this receiving core, and I mean Josh Gordon seems to have a pretty good chemistry with Tom Brady. We know Julian Edelman does. Philip Dorsett, also seems to have established, as we saw in Week 1 against Pittsburgh in the Sunday night game. Very viable, and the guys beyond him were making plays on this roster. Who is going to pay the price here in the receiving core?
To me, it is most likely to be Julian Edelman just because Antonio Brown fills that similar role for an offense, except to a better extent. But I really think we could just see them end up passing the ball more because if there's one thing the Patriots know how to do, it's just be the most efficient offense on a per play basis. They're not going to be as flashy as like a Patrick Mahomes Kansas City, but they just seem to be playing optimally at every turn. And to me, that screams that they'll be running with more wide receivers out right now on the field at any given time than they have in many years past, especially given that I want to say Matt Lacoste didn't really do anything. He was banged up. I want to say he played, but just wasn't really, like, I don't know if he even got targeted because he barely made the roster on the week, or I guess the active roster given his injury. Lance Kendricks was suspended and then cut. Ben Watson suspended. I honestly have no clue other than Matt Lacoste who's their tight end. They might just not use tight ends anymore because that would be suboptimal for them to trot out anyone not named Rob Gronkowski when they've got so many dynamic weapons from James White, Sony Michel, assuming Antonio Brown is there, Josh Gordon. And for me, Julian Edelman and Antonio Brown overlap the most, and I think Josh Gordon is probably the most unique in this core just because he's such an incredible athlete. Like, the dude doesn't look like he's from this planet. He looks like Doomsday from the Superman comics, just smaller and more compact and tighter. So for me, he is the one who, like, is the most bulletproof because nobody can compare to what he can do athletically. So for me, Julian Edelman gets knocked, but I think his efficiency goes up to help buoy some of that target volume that'll be lost.
Right, and we have to remember there's the Gronk-sized hole in this passing attack, so there was a little bit of wiggle room there and some space to fill. I guess, the obvious winner to me is Tom Brady. But just the Patriots in general, if this plays out okay, and that's going to be the thing that we're all waiting to see. And we can't tell. I mean, the people I talk to that have worked closely around and covered Antonio Brown on a daily basis are very skeptical of his ability to come in. I'm going to put it mildly, very skeptical of his ability to come in and toe the line, in the manner, follow the Patriot way. And so we'll see. The fact that they traded away Demaryius Thomas, the Patriots, to the New York Jets earlier Tuesday, I don't think that's a big indicator of anything other than the fact that they had an excess even before Antonio Brown was there. They had released Lance Kendrick earlier in the day on Monday to make the room for Brown on the roster. So it wasn't really, directly related. So anyhow, this is going to be one. Look, I'm going to say, and I said this before, when you go to the circus, there's a clown car, and that's part of the show, and you sit back and watch it, and that's, part of what comes with Antonio Brown. You can ask the Raiders. They will tell you fully. So we're going to have to see how this plays out. Watch closely on the main page of the website. We will have news, obviously ongoing on the latest situation, the allegations of sexual assault, and which Antonio Brown's legal team has quickly and forcefully refuted. We'll be watching how the Patriots react to this, how the NFL reacts to this, how the public reacts to this, because all those things will be factors in how it plays out in the coming days. Beyond that, we have a week 2 slate, gentlemen. And, boy, we had some great performances in week 1, and I suspect we're hoping for some more. Let's start out. I just want to, throw out the Baltimore. I'm so heavily invested in Lamar Jackson. It's ridiculous, and it's paid off. Great matchup against the Miami Dolphins, it turns out, last week. Kyle, is this another good matchup, a plus matchup against the Arizona Cardinals?
Oh, absolutely. Even if you just look at the Cardinals last year with their atrocious defense, you love to see that at home. But on top of that, they have a bad defense and an offense that wants to run, 60 plus 70 plays a game. Last week, it was a little bit of an outlier just because they got to play extra, managing to get into overtime after really a pretty rough first quarter and even first half. Then they kind of came to life after Kyler Murray seemed to settle in. He looked it's a bit narrative heavy, but he just looked to have the rookie jitters that you tend to see with a lot of rookie quarterbacks. And he kind of came out as a baller in the second half and led them to what really could have been a victory, but ended up being a tie. So they are going to run so many plays which will counteract what we kind of expect to be just a slower offense in general in Baltimore. So yeah, but the problem is for me is that he got priced up. Right now he's the number 2 quarterback on the slate, only behind Patrick Mahomes. I like him, but do I like him as the second best quarterback? I don't think so this week. But, I mean, for your season-long leagues, for your and I best ball leagues, we are just beyond stoked. And I don't care who you have as your quarterback, unless you have Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, I don't know. He's really a top 5. I think I put him at number 6 or 7 in one of the magazine rankings because, to make a splash, just to make a splash. I think he has that kind of potential. And we didn't even see it in rushing. So, beyond those two guys, I can totally see you starting him over anybody else right now, and I have no problem with that. So season long, just fire up all the Lamar Jackson. And right now, price-wise, he's not my favorite play, but I can still get on board with it.
Yeah, I think so as well. Justin, just looking at the quarterbacks beyond Lamar Jackson, who are you investing in this week?
I think that it would behoove you to look at Tom Brady at Miami, 6,400, with or without Antonio Brown. I mean,
by himself.
they steamrolled the Pittsburgh Steelers the other night, and the score wasn't even a measure of how bad it was. I mean, the fact that he's 6,400, I love it with Julian Edelman in cash games. I think Tom Brady can obviously throw 5 touchdowns. They could also be up really early. It could be a Sony Michel game. I mean, the guessing game is we're used to that. I'm looking down a little bit, and I would tend to agree with Lamar Jackson, although I don't think the Dolphins are a measure of what he is. He's good, no doubt, but they're the worst team in the NFL, and it's not even close. I'm looking at Ben Roethlisberger at home against Seattle. My belief is that if Andy Dalton can do what he did in Seattle, I think Ben Roethlisberger at home, permitting Juju Smith-Schuster is healthy, can do the same at 5,800. Kyle, we were talking, you guys mentioned Josh Allen in cash games. I think that's a sharp play with his rushing equity at 5,300. And one more player I want to talk about is Marcus Mariota. Looked pretty good. I feel as though he's safe, and at 5K at home against a Colts team that is not terrific by any stretch. Obviously, you're going to pair him up with Delaney Walker, who also looked wonderful week 1. So I'm not straying too far from Tom Brady, Lamar Jackson, Ben Roethlisberger tonight, but I do, I enter a ton of lineups, and I like to mix it up. And I think that one more player I will tout is Nick Foles, backup in Jacksonville.
The stash.
Yeah, exactly. Uncle Rico, 4,800 on the road at Houston. Interestingly enough, it wasn't D.D. Westbrook, but it was DJ Shark. So I will probably have a little exposure there based on the price. I think that it could be somewhat of a shootout in a divisional matchup. But tonight, it's Brady.
For those who don't know who the stash might be, that's Gardner Minshew, the rookie quarterback.
Exactly.
Very intelligent player. Maybe not all the arm talent in the world. We'll find out more about that. So.
Yep.
All right, so
4,800. Love it.
Sounds like you're playing everybody in the quarterback position. I'll help people narrow it down a little bit. For me, like you said, cash game, I love Josh Allen. He got 10 rushing attempts last week, and I think 37 passing attempts in a game that they won like 17-14, I believe. So you expect that much volume for a quarterback in these shootout games, and it just wasn't it didn't have to be that, and he still got to that crazy volume both on the ground and through the air. For better or for worse, they are going to be running this offense through Josh Allen both on the ground and in the air. Pair him with John Brown, who I think is the best receiver for his skill set, per their price in the NFL. Of course, the best receiver for any player's skill set is Odell Beckham, but to be a very niche specific skill set to pair with Josh Allen, yeah, of course it's John Brown. Are you kidding me? It's not surprising that he went off on the 10 targets he got. And so I love Josh Allen this week. Pretty much any time he's under 5,500 for the rushing volume alone, you're going to have to play him in cash games. And then for tournaments, for me, it's all Jared Goff all the way. He's played New Orleans 3 times in his career, and I want to say I had it pulled up just a few minutes ago because right now I'm actually working on the cash game write-up for Football Diehards. You can check that out. I don't know, drop tomorrow or something. So yeah, check that out. The cash game went well last week. And Jared Goff crushes when he plays New Orleans because, of course, you pair these two offenses and everyone's going to crush. So for me, it was 300 some yards and 2 touchdowns on average, throws roughly 40 attempts. He gets all the volume and, of course, he gets the yards. And on that offense, yeah, he's going to score too. So for me, he's a tournament play. He's a cash play. I love him. Josh Allen, more strictly a cash play because I'm not sure. I love the upside relative to the massive shootout we should see between New Orleans and Los Angeles.
Yeah, I think so as well. So, running back time, Kyle, we'll start with you. Who are the primary guys that you'll be dealing with this week?
On the other side of the ball, literally for the exact same reasons, Alvin Kamara, it's all Alvin Kamara. I know we've got Zeke, I know we've got Barkley, but they got 11 and 13 carries each. And sure, I expect both of them, that could be roughly season lows if they don't get, benched as in, say Zeke gets to sit out most of week 17 because it doesn't mean anything. They're in the playoffs. Outside of those type of outliers, those could be season lows. It's very possible. But for me, I don't know why you wouldn't just go with Kamara, who we saw explode last week in a shootout. We expect another shootout. I'm all about Alvin Kamara, and he's averaged over 30 points in those exact same 3 games I was talking about with Jared Goff, because he gets so many receptions when they have to throw the ball. Like, the more throwing there is for New Orleans, the more it is for Alvin Kamara. It's just that simple. So I love Alvin Kamara. He's this week's Christian McCaffrey, and it's not even close. Dalvin Cook, I don't think got priced up enough. He was right around 6K. I believe he was 6K on the dot last week. And they threw like 10 times, I think. Like, they just want to run the ball. That's all they care about. I think if they're down 30, they might just run the ball another 10 times. And that's all going to be going to Dalvin Cook. So I love Dalvin Cook at 7,200 just for the value you get out of him. And then finally, DraftKings released their prices before maybe both of the Monday games, but definitely before the Oakland game, because Josh Jacobs, 4,700, got 23 attempts and one target that he converted to a reception. I think if they are in more negative game script based on his college resume, where he was a talented pass catcher at Alabama, that pass catching total goes up even in the NFL. Like, he looks to be a true 3-down back. If they're up early, he's going to run. If they're down early, he's going to catch passes. 4,700, he is like the free square of all free squares. He is like the same level of free square we thought we were going to get with Tony Pollard last week. We were a week late and a player different, but we finally got our complete free square with Josh Jacobs. I love the Josh Jacobs play.
Yeah, running backs for you, Justin.
I got to agree. 8K for me for certain, and I'll never forget the great Adam Schefter said on the Football Diehards pod a couple years ago, Justin, the Saints love Alvin Kamara, and they do. Adrian Peterson was on the team at the time. They do.
That's a good impression. I want to hear more of this.
Yep, Justin. And interestingly enough, Rob Gronkowski signed an extension mid-podcast, and Drew Rosenhaus had called him to drop that tidbit on him. Anyways, Alvin Kamara is essentially Christian McCaffrey minus a little bit of the work. He's certainly not the grinder, but they are 1A and 1B in my book. I do like Matt Breida with Tevin Coleman being out. I mean, we saw when Matt Breida is in the featured role, 20 carries. I'm digging his price at Cincinnati. A lot of this is price, obviously, and some of the prices, and they have to adjust. Obviously, we like Austin Eckler, but he's 6,100. I mean, he's 6,100. I think what we like about Austin Eckler is his involvement in the passing game. He's Danny Woodhead-esque on a Chargers team that's going to score points. He's jumping out at me now because of the receptions that he's capable of having. As I'm staring down Derrick Henry at home. I mentioned Marcus Mariota. I think that a Titan stack is in order. But Derrick Henry, there's just something about him that scares me. I think if he doesn't break one, then he could be flat. I mean, he was flattened for about 80% of the 2018 season. Then what he did at the end was just incredible. So Breida, I would agree with Jacobs, obviously, and like you were kind enough to text me earlier, Kyle, about Jalen Richard not having a role. And here's a guy who's had 68 receptions last year, and it's Josh Jacobs. So they weren't kidding when they said he was a 3-down back. Now, I don't know that the game script, I mean, what happens if the Chiefs get ahead 4 touchdowns? What good is Josh Jacobs? But they're Antonio Brown-less, so the points have to come somewhere. And by the way, Kyle, your Tyrell Williams touting all offseason, it was impressive because it came to light week 1. That's where I'm at. I do like some Chris Thompson with Darius Geis out. I think a healthy Chris Thompson is that PPR back that we love. You can have 8 to 10 receptions any week. So 3,900 for me. But up top, it is Alvin Kamara. I want some Matt Breida tonight. Again, it's Tuesday. I do like the Jacobs call based on price and volume. And way down, it's going to be Chris Thompson.
Justin, sticking with you, give me your wide receiver plays and this week 2 slate.
It's interesting because a lot of guys went off. We mentioned John Ross. I think I'll be back on John Ross this week based on the price. I think up top you have to you're going to see DeAndre Hopkins at home with Jalen Ramsey sitting on him. Will he have 34 points? Probably not, but 8,100 is okay. So I don't think it's bad to play DeAndre Hopkins any week. I do like Devontae Adams at 7,700 at home against Minnesota. I think his 7-point week will, come to life. Aaron Rodgers loves him. We love that. They'll bounce. back. The Packers look good on defense, but that was an awful game last week for certain. By the way, Bobby, Sammy Watkins, our Sammy Watkins love.
My guy.
It didn't work out, I think, the way that the Chiefs wanted it to, but
we'll take it.
We'll take it. Look, the fact of the matter with Watkins is, he's had the misfortune of quarterback play over the course of his career and some injuries, but you got a guy like Mahomes, and I think that we're seeing Sammy Watkins that was at Clemson.
Let's just stipulate that pretty much everyone who plays with Pat Mahomes is going to be some percentage better than they are without Pat Mahomes, and Sammy Watkins, when healthy, we've seen brief periods in Buffalo,
exactly.
For example, where he
Buffalo.
was literally the best receiver in the game, playing with a guy named Tyrod Taylor over, I think, about a 9-game stretch. He was literally unstoppable. So you could see that happening again. Andy Reid is great at scheming, and apparently they have enough running backs to float a small battleship there, by the way. Good for them, LaShawn McCoy, and not so good for the Damian Williams owners. I feel like, so last week when I did my 3 and out, I was nailed a couple of them in Lamar Jackson and Dalvin Cook. I was out on Ezekiel Elliott. I was looking for cheap receivers. I went with Albert Wilson. There was a lot of metrics that maybe worked in my favor, but then there was the fact he's a Miami Dolphin, which totally didn't. He was also hurt. I'll grant you that, but it wasn't going to work anyway. Kyle, who are the cheap receiver plays this week? Who's this week's Terry McLaurin?
I don't know if he's that low priced. I know for a fact he's not. He's 4,400, but baby, it's another Tyrell Williams week. I was so excited, and especially, of course, I had to double down on my season-long takes by loading up on Tyrell Williams in the captain slot last night, playing the showdown, and of course, the final play of the game that mattered before some kneels. He gets the 100-yard bonus. My pants come completely off. I threw a party at 1 a.m, and because he was so late, in the day. Literally into the next day is when he hit that 100-yard bonus. If you're on the East Coast, he's still 4,400. That's a joke. He's this team's number 1 wide receiver. He's like when you get a number 1 wide receiver, and that's like Deshaun Jackson. He's that level of speed, especially when you consider that he's a lot taller. He sort of toned down the speed a little bit, but toned up his size, his catch radius, that he's just that sort of downfield burner that you also feel comfortable getting a lot of volume with. I absolutely love Tyrell Williams. Another guy who is the deepest, ugliest play is Cody Latimer. He's well under 4K. And I only say that because Sterling Shepard out with concussion. Obviously, they don't have Golden Tate yet. That leaves them with 5 or 6 active receivers. And on top of that, Cody Latimer led this team in receiving or in targets last week at I believe it was 8. And he's top 5 in the league in air yards after 1 week. They're comfortable giving Cody Latimer the ball. Of course, would I be comfortable giving Cody Latimer the ball if I was a head coach? No, that sounds insane, but can't assume that they're going to be rational, and also their receiving core sucks. Everyone's hurt and dead. So we'll talk about Evan Ingram later because I think he's another sharp play for that same reason. But if you can get the starting wide receiver on a team that has already committed to giving him the ball at, I want to say 3,700, you have to go with that. Do I think he's going to pop off like Terry McLaurin? No, because I think we've seen enough from Cody Latimer throughout his career to know he's definitively not good. But he's also definitively going to get volume, and I'll buy into that even if I think he has a significantly lower ceiling than we saw with your Marquise Browns last week, your Terry McLaurin's. He's still going to get volume, and I'll buy into that for, let's see here, 3,700. That's unreal for a starting receiver.
It really is, and a great play, I think, again. Justin, tight ends started off.
It is going to be Mark Andrews, who, by the way, Kyle, we made a bet with Savvy John Kelly off the air about Mark Andrews and his production. When you look at the Baltimore Ravens offense, I don't think it's going to be a Hollywood week every week. I think that Lamar Jackson is going to use Mark Andrews as Baker Mayfield did at Oklahoma. And the price just is, he went off last week again against Miami. Doesn't tell us everything, but it's certainly a team that doesn't have John Brown. They're a run heavy offense. I think Mark Andrews can be that safety blanket. 3,800 against the Cardinals is just perfect for me.
Let's just say the Cardinals have been notoriously generous to the tight ends over the course of time, and they demonstrated that again last week by allowing a rookie tight end, T.J. Hawkinson, albeit a very talented rookie tight end, just run rampant.
Yep, exactly. And we know that rookie tight ends struggle historically, but the game has changed. So I think some of those things can obviously change as well, but historically, and industry colleague Mike Clay will tell you that the numbers back it up. I mean, rookie tight ends struggle, and we've seen it. Aside from Evan Ingram a couple of years ago, but he was kind of thrusted into a role where he was force-fed, what's happening now in New York. So there's Mark Andrews, and I mentioned, Mr. Harris, your boy, Delaney Walker, 3,500 when he's healthy. He's Marcus Mariota's guy against the Colts. I love it. We love, as football fans and as fantasy owners, to see a healthy Delaney Walker, because he's been just about as good as it's gotten over the last 7-8 years in the NFL in the sea of mediocrity. He's a little above the sea of mediocrity. So I'm not going to stray too far from those two. I feel like value can be had at that position. The pricing has adjusted. So I don't find the need to pay way up for any of the top dogs tonight. But again, it's only Tuesday. There's no need for now. Evan Ingram, who was 4,800 last week, 5,200 this week at home against Buffalo, and Buffalo's got a good defense. I do like the usage that Evan Ingram could get. You're getting a discount, like $2,000 less than Travis Kelce, $1,600 less than George Kittle. So that would be my play of those big three. But outside of Evan Ingram, which is probably the most I'm going to spend, is Mark Andrews and your friend 30. Is he 36 yet? 36-year-old Delaney?
Yeah, he's like right up in that range. But once you get past 30, it really doesn't matter. You're like 60.
Doesn't matter,
right? Kyle, tight end me, please.
I've got pretty much three I am eyeing up. I'm eyeing up Travis Kelce because without Tyreek Hill, I expect his target share to go up. Oh, and I want to, as we're talking about this, the target share in Kansas City, McCole Hardman basically was brought in as the replacement for Tyreek Hill. I forgot to bring him up because I was still celebrating and putting my pants back on from Tyrell Williams. But yeah, McCole Hardman, he might only need to get 3 to 4 targets in a single game to absolutely crush his value. So I have no clue what he's priced at, and I literally don't care. Yeah, he's 4,800. I think he could crush that value easily, and he actually got priced up a little higher than I would have thought, which hopefully means that not as many people are on him. It'll only serve to decrease his ownership, whereas if he hits, he's going to hit big. All right, back to tight ends. Travis Kelce, just the game script for this game should be really good in that it's got a crazy high total, because literally any time the Chiefs take the field, it has a crazy high total. But Oakland looked all right against what was supposed to be a really good defense in Denver. They might be able to, I don't want to say hang with Kansas City, but force them not to get to run the ball for the entire second half. And that's really all I care about is, can Oakland hang within 2 scores? And it's possible they could do that given how they looked last week, or I guess last night. So, Travis Kelce, I love paying up, especially if I can get the Cody Latimer, Josh Jacobs value, then it's really easy to pay up at tight end. Evan Ingram is sorely mispriced at 5,200. He was 4,800 last week. I thought that was a little rich, but I could totally see it. And now we saw he got 14 targets in a game where Sterling Shepard got 7. If Shepard misses, this is he should be 100% chalk. And if Shepard does play, he should be 75% chalk because he scored 31 points and went up in salary 400. Last week, I thought he was a tiny bit overpriced, but I didn't hate him. This week, he is massively underpriced. The correction just did not come. And then Justin got it already, but Mark Andrews was one of the better rookie tight end seasons in recent memory on one of the more depressed offenses in terms of passing volume. He still crushed it last year, and he's only done more evidence to that in one game to prove how good of a tight end he is and how good of a talent he was coming out of Oklahoma. Outproducing in some aspects the likes of CeeDee Lamb, who could be a first-round pick, and obviously Marquise Brown, who we saw erupt. His college resume, people don't understand how good it was, and now it's the absolute smash spot. So yeah, those are the 3 tight ends for me, and that's pretty much all I'm going to be going early in the week.
Excellent. So I just want to say the Thursday night game this week is Tampa Bay at Carolina. Greg Olsen seems to, have a little bit of a back issue. That's something to watch, maybe something you can avoid if you're playing that. So be cautious there. There will be other injuries we will cover at the website throughout the coming days. You'll be able to get Justin's Digging in the Crates article. What day is that going to be up, Justin?
I would say it'll be Thursday morning.
Thursday. Kyle's cash and tournament game breakdowns, lineup breakdowns will be up. When, Kyle?
Maybe tonight, or maybe tomorrow, or at least tomorrow night. I don't know what Amel's schedule is like, but I will have them written by tomorrow night because I am very excited for this week. I like the pricing again this week like I did last week.
And my tournament 3 and out column will be up late Thursday night, early Friday morning. It's all the same to me. Once it's kind of like it's not the next day until you go to bed, right? So
I don't operate on days anymore, given how much I'm just grinding the news and everything. I'm just operating on like one long day that is Tuesday, Wednesday, then like one kind of weirdly broken up day with small naps in between that's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Good problem to have, though, Kyle.
Yes, it is. So the big story again, and there's a little more detail coming out. Antonio Brown accused of sexually assaulting his former trainer, who claims that Brown sexually assaulted her twice during training sessions in 2017, then again in March of 2018, at which point in time he sent her profane text messages that are copied in the lawsuit, bragging about the assault. So his legal team has obviously struck back. There will be other news at the site. Before we take it off, before we call it a night here, I want to get the defenses. Kyle, what defenses are you honed in on?
For defenses right now, I am looking to pay right about in the middle. I really like the Cincinnati Bengals defense, mostly because the Niners traveling east to a different time zone, and then their offense didn't really look very spectacular. It was mostly their defense that looked good. I just think this is generally home favorite defenses. I'll have to check if they're actually favorites or not, but I would pick them as favorites. Given how close we saw them contend a really good team in Seattle, right now they're actually they are indeed 1-point favorites, as I thought they'd be. So yeah, home favorite defenses in a spot where I kind of like them to pick on the San Francisco offense that, as the box score scouts would tell you, was actually not as good as we might have expected.
No.
And then, of course, I like the Texans hosting Jacksonville, just picking on Gardner Minshew. You could see J.J. Watt just tearing him apart.
Yeah, assuming J.J. Watt shows up, which apparently he doesn't do every single week, according to Monday night. Justin, your defense.
It is going to be, and I would definitely agree with Kyle as far as picking on the rookie with the Texans, but it's a different defense without Jadeveon Clowney. I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos versus the Chicago Bears. Mitch Trubisky looks not good at all. It's week 1, so we'll cut him some slack. 1 pick. He was sacked 5 times. He is going to have the misfortune of seeing Von Miller and Bradley Chubb, and that could be really bad. And I really love the price of the Denver Broncos for certain and at Mile High. So it's going to be the Broncos for me. Again, it's early in the week. We love home defenses. I tend to agree with Kyle. The Houston Texans price is just beautiful, 2,800 against a rookie. And tonight it is, we don't really necessarily feel the need to pay way up. It's one of these positions where we tend to pay down or find something in the middle. We were glued on Seattle last week, which was fine, but some of these lower defenses, really came into fruition as far as the Titans were terrific. The 49ers were terrific. But we certainly don't want to take a 0, and we're definitely not going to play the Dolphins against Tom Brady, regardless of them being at
Justin,
home.
Correct me if I'm wrong here. You just in the same breath both cut Mitch Trubisky some slack and cut him to the quick, all of the same sentence. Did I have that right?
Yeah, I mean, he was pretty good last. The Bears collectively were a good football team last year, but I don't think that Aaron Rodgers looked like Aaron Rodgers week 1. So it's one of these, and Bill Belichick has said it best. September is the new.
I say that.
Yeah, well, yeah, you do too. But Bill Belichick, I could have swore I heard Bill Belichick say it a couple of years ago.
If he did, he stole it from me.
And it's true.
September is the new August.
It's true.
Leave me alone, hoodie.
It's the truth, and especially on an early Thursday night game. Yeah, I mean, these teams tend to gel, and we know the identity of a team, I would say, by week 6, week 7, and some of these teams by mid-season. So you don't know what you're working with, and some of these players have not played in the preseason, so cohesiveness and chemistry is obviously paramount what these teams do. So I'm not going to rule out the Packers or Mitch Trubisky yet, but he certainly has some, and he's young. I remember Mike Mayock's jaw dropping when they moved up to draft him after they signed Mike. The hell's his name there? Napoleon Dynamite there. The Bears paid him a ton of money, and then they moved up Mike, the pencil neck, Mike Glennon. Yeah, they gave Glennon a boatload of money, and Mayock's jaw was on the ground when they moved up to grab Trubisky. So GMs are smarter than we are. I'll give Trubisky some slack, but not this week at Denver.
Fair enough. So again, Football Diehards is the website. You'll find articles by myself, Kyle, Justin, outlining our favorite DFS plays in the various contests and various types of contests. John Lobb will also be checking in with his DraftKings, the Scholars DraftKings sheet of knowledge. We'll have work from Brad Cruz. We'll have work from Emil Kadlick. The whole crew will be in there. Evan Tarciano's waiver wire wizard is up, as is Kyle's early injury preview and waiver wire preview. So check everything out. We'll have the nonstop flow of news begins as it does every week Wednesday night. Rankings up by myself, Kyle, Gary Davenport's IDP cheat sheet will be up as well, as will Gary Davenport's The Shadow Knows, talking about the shadow coverage. Tons of coverage through all the game times. Then on Sunday morning, Kyle, what time are you and Bobby Gomes going live?
We go live at 9 p.m. Eastern, so be sure to
9
check
a.m.
that out.
It's 9 in the morning.
9 a.m. PM is the one that happens at night.
You don't even know what time it is. And it's great stuff for an hour prior to the game. Watch them build their lineups. And as always, you can listen to the Football Diehards on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio every single day, 7 days a week, somewhere on that dial, whether it's the Fantasy Channel or the NFL Radio. So tune into that, and we'll be back next week to do this again.
Yeah, be sure to tune into that show to get the final news pieces. I believe I was all over Christian McCaffrey. Bobby was on Dalvin Cook, and we both crushed Sammy Watkins. We said he was an awful play, and you should never play him. So we pretty much crushed the slate. Except for that one part where we completely bonded. But in general, I think it's a great way to start your morning off right, because getting those, especially line movement, is something that I like to talk about a lot in that show. The line movement in Vegas that you see is really something that's crucial leading up to it. So I think that's actually a pretty significant edge to your DFS game. And if you're listening to this show, I feel like you're a grinder. So, of course, find us all on Twitter. Find myself at Kyle Tweets Here, Justin Lonero at Justin Lonero, and, of course, Bob at Football Diehard.